As I promised you before, we have so much to talk about. A jam-packed show. So excited about our first guest. First of all, he is more than a Hollywood executive. He's more than Meagan Good's husband. He is more. He is just a phenomenal person because he wrote this book called Produced by Faith that I got a chance to read recently, and I said, "Oh my goodness, I cannot wait to have him here on KEMPIRE Radio's TKIF." Please welcome for the very first time, Devon Franklin's in the building.
Yo, what's going on, man?
Devon, first of all, I mean, there's so much for us to talk about, so I know you're definitely gonna have to come back at another time. Your book is just full of so much. I love how you took your film background and your church background and brought them together for this book.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I'm first of all excited that you liked it and responded to the concept. I mean, that was really part of what I felt that I could offer unique to the space. Is so many people want to get into film, and so many people want to get to the next level of their life. So it just
Definitely.
felt like a really good combination.
Because I felt, and it's so true that I felt that not only did I learn about faith and spirituality, but I also felt like I was learning some things about the movie business that I had no idea about.
Yeah, I really wanted the book to kind of operate on those two levels, where it's very practical in helping kind of demystify an industry.
Hmm.
A lot of people just go to the theater or they rent, videos or they watch them on Netflix or iTunes or however you get your content, and you don't really think about the whole system that's in place and that is necessary in order to get that movie to the theater. So I really wanted to show people a behind-the-scenes look on how it all gets done.
Definitely, I have so much questions for you
Cool, man.
about the book. First of all, um, it's produced by Faith. Why did you decide to call the book Produced by Faith? For those that are
Be,
wondering.
because once, I locked in on the concept of using the movie business and you looking at your life as a movie and taking, a script from the beginning development stages, how it gets mixed, I started thinking about, okay, well, what is in the movie business the biggest prize you can get? Well, the biggest prize everyone aspires to achieve outside of box office dollars
Hmm.
is an Academy Award.
Definitely.
And I said, okay, well, at the Academy Awards, what is the biggest prize of the night? The biggest prize of the night is Best Picture.
Mm.
Okay, well, then who receives the Best Picture? Whoever produced the movie. So I said, okay, well, using that analogy in my life, right, at the end of my life, do I want to receive the credit? Who receive the credit? What should receive the credit? And when I thought of, God being my director, I thought, well, at the end of my life, it should say produced by faith,
Mm.
because faith has been the key to everything that I've achieved in this life. I don't want it to have anything to do with anything I've done monetarily or any of my positions or anything like that. I
Mm.
want to say produced by faith. So that's how I kind of came up with the concept, really looking at the Academy Awards and the Best Picture.
Yeah. And we're talking about faith. For those that may have their own idea of what faith means, what does faith in this context to you mean?
Faith in this context, one, means faith in God. I'm a Christian, so definitely relying upon my Christian faith. So Christian faith is a part of the definition. Faith in yourself.
Mm.
Faith in believing that there is a plan for your life. So many people, live life aimlessly, live life with no hope. You have to have faith that you are here for a reason, that there is a purpose, that there is a destiny, that there is a call, and that God created you to fulfill it.
Hmm.
And that each one of us has a unique place in this world. So that's how I define faith in the book.
And there are those people in life that know what they want to do with their lives. They know what direction that their lives are supposed to go in. But there are a lot of people that don't have a direction. And what would you say to those people that are maybe they have a little faith, but they're like, okay, I really don't know what's happening for me.
I think you have to, do what I could call a CSI investigation of your life, right? You
Mm.
have to go back through and sift through everything you've been through, sift through things that you kind of like to do, sift through the things people told you what you've done well all your life. You have to really start to put together, okay, what do I like to do? What are the things that I've gone through in life? What are really my interests? So you can start to see the patterns that I can look at. Are there things that I didn't want to do because I didn't know if I could make a living? It's really what I'm passionate about. You have to look at everything in your life to really identify what it is you're supposed to do. Like you said, sometimes people get it, they know it, and they know it early. Other people struggle with it. But I think it is the number one question we have to ask ourselves. I just started rereading The Alchemist recently, and the one quote, in the jacket says, to realize one's destiny is a person's only obligation. And that really hit home for me. The big idea of your life, as I describe it in Produced by Faith, you get what your movie's about. And if you don't know, you have to make it a priority to find out and not use an excuse. Well, I don't know. You have to commit to the process, and you will discover. You will, but you may have to try a few things. That's why, when you're younger, I try to tell people, get an internship, because you think you know about an industry, but you don't know until you work in it, But finding your calling, finding your purpose is the number one idea behind the success of your movie, your life. And I would encourage anyone that's listening right now, if you don't know it, write it down right now. Number one thing to do, number one priority, is figure out why I'm here.
Definitely. And once you've figured out what you're supposed to do, of course, you and I both know that there are going to be times where things don't work out. And maybe the thing that you want to do is you're just getting a lot of obstacles. What would you say to those people?
I would, when you get conflict, when things don't work out, you should say thank God, because it means that you're heading in the right direction, right? As I talk about in the book, and I talk about the idea of, okay, if your life is a movie, your life is a story. You can't have a story without conflict. If you have a story without conflict, you don't have a story at all. Think about your favorite stories in life. The reason why you love them is because the main character goes through great conflict, and they receive and achieve great victory. So the moment you decide to pursue a path, conflict comes. To me, I believe that's evidence that you're on the right path, because when you start to line up and do the things that you're supposed to do, those obstacles are there to prepare you. There are things that I would have never been able to do right now if I hadn't gone through conflict in my story. The conflict that I've gone through, the challenges, the difficult conversations I've had here at the job sometimes, the things that I didn't know how to handle, but I was able to make it through. They were all preparation for me to operate more fully in my gifting. So don't fear the conflict. Don't fear, what is coming. Know that what is coming will be there to prepare you to operate more fully in your capacity and in your talent.
Most definitely. If you guys just tuned in, it's of course TKIF Think Kemp is Friday. Make sure you're linking everyone to tonight's show. You can listen at KEMPIREradio.com or via our free Live 365 app. We're here with author, preacher, and Hollywood executive, movie executive, Devon Franklin. His book, Produced by Faith, is one of my favorite books right now that I've been reading. And, anytime anything's my favorite, I try to bring it here to the show. And we're so excited that you're here. The first time I was introduced to Devon was on Oprah's Super Soul Sunday. First of all, tell us what that experience was like when you get the call, Oprah wants you on her show.
Oh, man, I still don't believe it. I still watch the tape. I'm like, wow, that really happened, because it was amazing. It was an out-of-body experience. It was incredible. And the thing you're talking about, the irony is that the way I got on her show, was through a mistake. There was, her agency that she was with at the time. There was an agent there who had called me about something, a project, a film project, and I was delayed in calling her back. And when I finally called her back, she was very candid with me. She said, you can't afford to call me back this late. And which is true. She totally deserved the respect. She'd been in the industry for a while, and no matter what was going on in the job, I should have stopped and called her right back when she called me. As a way to apologize, I sent her an advance copy of my book. She ends up getting it. She loves it and says, I'm going to send this to, the agent that has Oprah's account. She sent it to that agent. That agent said, and so that agent was the one that got to Sherry. Right, and Sherry was the one that read it. I met with Sherry, and Sherry's like, you gotta meet Oprah. I said, okay, if you want me, I'll do it. And then I go in and Sherry and Oprah, and it was just one of those instant connections. It's just one of those things when you meet somebody and you just immediately have the connection. There's a comfort, and to be able to have that with her and with Sherry was just awesome. And then about a month after that meeting, Meagan flew out and shot Super Soul Sunday. It was incredible, and the response has been amazing. And so for her to be so generous, with her platform to be able to help me, a young voice in the world, for her to share her stage with me it's just something that I'll always be indebted to her for, and incredibly appreciative. And I'm just so thankful that so many people around the world know about Produced by Faith because of it and
Yeah.
because of her.
Most definitely. And you mentioned that it was a mistake. We already know there are no mistakes.
Right, but this is the thing that I like to tell people. So many times when we worry when we do things that are wrong or things don't go the way we think. The Bible teaches us, all things work together for the good of those that love Him. So even when you feel, oh, I've messed up, God, as the director of our story, has the ability to take what we think and use it to set us up for sometimes our greatest blessings.
Most definitely. Devon, first of all, I know we don't have you for long, but I wanted you to share the story on how you decided, because you've always dreamed to be in film and do what you do, but you're also a preacher. How did you decide to make that step to say, you know what, I'm going to also to do, preach the good word?
Oh man, it was hard. I'll be real honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I started preaching, and I think I gave my first sermon at the age of 15. For a youth day. I'm from Oakland, from the San Francisco Bay Area, and so I grew up in a church in East Oakland, and I spoke for youth day, and everybody said, "Oh, that was really good. You got to keep doing it." So in high school, periodically, I would preach. And, they would tell me, my pastor, Dr. D.J. Williams, he would tell me, he would say, Devon, you got to go into ministry. And I'm like, I'm not going into ministry. I'm not preaching. I'm going to Hollywood. I said, I want to make some movies. I'm not trying to be up in this pulpit. And he said, okay. He said, you can run, but you can't hide. And how the old wisdom comes at you. He said, no, don't put that omen on me, all right? Because at the time, I didn't have anything to do with it. And so as I went to USC and interned and all those good things and started working, I graduated, 22, started working for Will Smith's company as an assistant. And it was right after I graduated, not that long after, my younger brother went up to Oakland to do a revival with some of his ministry college buddies. And so I went home to help him. And as I'm there in the church and listening to these young guys preach, it's like God is talking to me saying, you have the gift. Why aren't you using it? And I didn't really have a good answer. And I was like, well, I'm in Hollywood and I don't want people to, how am I going to mix, making movies and producing with preaching? And it was almost like God was saying, don't worry about how it looks. You have to own what I gave you. And so about later, my pastor called me and said, can you come up once a week because I'm getting older and I need some help. So I didn't really want to do it, to be honest, but because he's done so much for me in my life, I was like, oh, I got to do it. So as I started going up a month to preach, first of all, I started finding that I was getting fulfilled by it, that I was enjoying it. And here's the thing. Everything in Hollywood didn't stop. It kept growing. So as I started doing it, I began to realize it wasn't an either or, but it was an and. Wow. And the blessing is the more I started preaching, the more I started developing my gift, the more confidence I had at work, the more peace I had, because I began to realize is that life is bigger than just a job. Life is bigger than just the industry you happen to work in, and so this outlet for my creativity and for just, for my freedom, it really helped bring me a lot more clarity at work. And then what started happening, people started saying, hey, Devon, well, could you do a Bible study with us during lunch? And the word started spreading in Hollywood. Well, wait, you preach? And, Will would come in the office and he called me, oh, hey, what's up, Rev? He wouldn't call me by my name. You know what I mean? And the interesting thing is that by owning my gift, by owning my natural gifting is speaking, speaking in front of audiences, speaking in front of people. That's what I have, and I can do that because that's what God gave me, right? The more I started pouring into that and developing it and building on it, the doors started opening for me in entertainment. Because the moment I started owning my true self, I'm telling you, when you start owning who you really are, that confidence comes out, that happiness, that joy comes out, and people want to work around people who are happy, who are joyful, who are confident in who they are. And so as I started doing that, man, I'm telling you, like everything that I do now, even the movies that I make now, directly relate to the decision to start preaching and to not worry about how it looked.
Definitely. Devon, I know you got to go, but before you go,
we got some time. Go ahead, man. Go ahead. Take your answer. Yeah, we're good.
Look, good.
We got a few more.
Because, a lot of people will look at your life, the preacher, but also Hollywood, and people have this view of Hollywood, and we may be wrong, and you could correct us if we're wrong in regards to Hollywood. But a lot of people say, how do you have that balance of being a preacher, but also working in this industry that people really almost view as Sodom and Gomorrah?
Here's the again. It's like we can't buy into labels. So many times people put a label on something, and then we buy into the label when we haven't had the experience ourselves, right? So this idea that Hollywood is Sodom and Gomorrah, right? That has not been my experience. Yes, there are people here who want to make certain types of films, and this is true, right? But the people that I have experienced in Hollywood have been people who care, people of integrity, people who have families. No one gets up in the morning and says, I want to make a bad movie. Or I want to make a movie that's going to, make the culture bad. No one does that. It doesn't happen. Now, people have different points of view, about what is appropriate and what may not be appropriate, but it doesn't come from a place of malice. So this idea that, oh my goodness, everyone in Hollywood, that's not true. I work on a lot. There are 3,000 or 4,000 people, good people that want to move ahead in life, people that are ethical. I like to try to demystify and debunk that broad brush that people try to paint Hollywood. In any industry, no matter who you are, you can get caught up. You can be in industry and get caught up because it ultimately comes down to your personal conviction, your personal integrity, and are you going to allow your ambition, no matter what your ambition is, get the best of you? So for me, this is key to maintaining my balance. We talked about earlier my preaching. Me preaching and having another outlet, having another talent, having another gift helps me balance because I realize, I'm Devon Franklin no matter where I go, right? It's not about a position defining me. I can add value to the position because I'm confident in who I am, right? So that helps me understand and put things in perspective. There were times in where if a movie didn't happen, I would literally look in the mirror and hate who I saw looking back at me. Why? Because I felt like a failure. If a script didn't come in good, I would be depressed. Oh my goodness, I'm going to amount to nothing in my life because this didn't come out the way that I wanted it to. Instead of allowing who God was in my life to validate me, I was letting the projects determine my value. I was letting the industry determine my value. And when you take your value, you put it in the hands of someone else or something else, you're always subject to what does and doesn't happen. So for me, what I had to realize to find the balance was I had to take my value back and realize that I'm good no matter what happens. Now, I work at being great at my job. I work at getting movies made. I work at developing great scripts and making great films. Absolutely. However, I don't determine my self-worth by those things. And I have to check my ambition. I got to keep it in check. Sometimes we want things so badly, we'll do anything to achieve it. And that is not the way that I realize that I can operate. I can't let the ends justify the means. The means sometimes more important than the end, because sometimes, with a project or a movie, you're so desperate to get it made, you'll backbite, backstab people, and you don't realize relationships are your currency, So sometimes if a movie doesn't happen, but you have the relationship, that's what matters most versus trying to get a movie made or a project done, and you burn so many relationships, in the process. So that's a long answer to your question, but that at least gives you an idea of how I maintain.
No, I definitely, and that's part of the reason why I said I had to ask you this question because I know, because from interacting with people in the industry, that it's not necessarily the way it's depicted on television or in the media or whatever it may be. But I thought it was important to have someone like you speak about it from that angle. I love the story about when you were interviewing to work with Will Smith's company. Can you share that story? Because I think that's it ties everything that you just talked about in standing who you are and observing the Sabbath and why that's important.
Yeah, it's funny because I got the first interview with Will Smith's company at the age of 18. When I first got to Los Angeles to go to school at USC, I knew that I needed to also get an internship because education wasn't just going to happen in the classroom. I also needed to get a professional education on how the entertainment industry worked. And so an internship was something that I put a lot of focus and attention to in order to combine that with my academic study.
Mm-hmm.
So a friend of a friend got me an interview at the management company that managed Will Smith. And so I go in the interview, and it was funny because when I first got in there, I had sent in my resume and had my picture on it. And when I get in there, the person that was doing the hiring showed me my resume with my picture crossed off.
Oh.
She was like, this job is not about that, and you don't want to send your picture around in your resume because some people may look at that and not hire you. So, I just want to make sure you keep it professional. And so I thought that the interview was going to be horrible. I was like, oh my goodness, I've already messed up,
The worst feeling in the world.
However, once we got through that, we ended up a fantastic time. And at the end of the interview, she asked me, is there anything else that you want to add? And so I was silent, And growing up as a Christian, I observed the Sabbath. So Friday night sundown to Saturday sundown, I didn't work or, play basketball or do anything social. And so in the interview, it was like God was telling me Sabbath. And I'm like, no, I'll tell her after I get the job, we want to get the opportunity, and then we'll tell the person, how we can manage it, but after we get it. And so, God just said, tell her about the Sabbath. So, reluctantly, I just said, well, I observe the Saturday night sundown to Saturday night sundown. So if taking the internship requires me to work during this period of time, unfortunately, I won't be able to take it. And it was very quiet. I'm having this internal dialogue with God, like, God, you're not right. Why would you do this to me, And after, a moment of silence, she said, don't worry about it. We can work around it. And what that did is it gave me confidence in, if it's a door God is opening in my life, then I can be true to what I believe. Mm-hmm. And I can have faith. And that door that he opens require me to compromise what I believe, but the door will be big enough to fit what I believe.
Wait, can I just read the quote exactly the way you said it on
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was like, hallelujah when you said this. If your faith won't fit in the door that opens, then I argue do not walk through that door. The door that God opens for you will fit your faith. I said, what? I had to write it down. But it's so
man.
true, and it takes a lot of bravery to stand up for what you believe in, and I applaud you for doing that. And I think
thank you.
By telling that story, I think you're going to inspire a lot of people to really just stand behind their beliefs, especially those that observe the Sabbath. But observing the Sabbath, why do you observe the Sabbath? Why is that important?
It's important because in a theological sense, the 10 Commandments, the fourth commandment is, remember the Sabbath to keep it holy, right? 6 days shall you labor, but the seventh day is the Sabbath, right? So in the 10 Commandments, right up there with, thou shalt not steal and thou shalt not covet, God tells us to remember the Sabbath and to keep it holy. They do it as a criminal in Christ. Jesus observed the Sabbath. It's all through the New Testament, right? So just as a follower of Christ, I believe that everything that he did on this earth is an example for us to follow. And so I follow and observe the Sabbath because he also did it. And the other thing that I find is that when you take a day off, a charge, to reconnect with God, reconnect with your family, to relax, to rest, you're better when you come back. I've observed the Sabbath, and we're going back to school days. I wouldn't study on the Sabbath. I wouldn't do homework on the Sabbath. I don't read scripts on the Sabbath now, but I'm as productive. I still got the grades, when I was in school. My last semester at USC, I got all A's. My first semester at USC, I was on the dean's list. I'm still getting movies made here at Sony. So, you think sometimes, well, if I take time off, will I lose? But when you take that time off, it's almost like tithing. When you give, that back to God, he's going to bless the other 90%. He'll bless the other 6 days, and I have seen it. I'm telling you, I believe a lot of the blessings that are in my life come because I have made a commitment to observe the Sabbath. And it is a time, man, to just, I'm telling you, like, when I shut down and, when Meagan's home and we shut down and we get in the Word or we'll watch a religious program or watch an educational documentary, it is like a time where you don't have to worry about all the other stresses of the week. So these are some of the reasons why I observe it.
Was that something Megan always did too, or is that something you
No,
introduced to her?
and
No.
she didn't know anything about it. She didn't know anything about it until we got together. So, it was an education, and it's still an education. She totally is convicted on it and totally believes in the Sabbath. And like any believer, as she's coming into it, she's continuing to own, her own observance of it. When we're not together. But it's something that both of us are very, very committed to, and it's important to our spiritual walk.
Because you're a preacher, and we have a lot of people that are in developing relationships, and I know that as a minister of God,
Yeah.
that you advise couples. How did you know that Megan was the one, and how would you advise others to find the one, or when
Whew,
they,
I mean,
or
yeah.
identify that whoever's with them might be the one?
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult for me to articulate it and to talk about it or to give anyone advice about it without understanding it from a spiritual standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
or talking about it from a spiritual standpoint. When it came to Megan, part of what helped me realize that she was the one was, obviously one, how I felt. Two was like on the third date, we just had an experience that really it was spiritual. Just hugging each other. It was just like, wow, there's something going on here, and also part of it was to be patient, and you feel something, and a lot of times, when we feel something, we want to just, press the gas, you know what I mean? But you gotta, pace yourself, and then you gotta look at the person's heart, and you gotta look at what they stand for and what they want out of life. So much of what I wanted out of life, she wanted out of life. And so much of our conversations and our time together, there was an ease, there was a peace, and there was a calm, And so what I loved about it is that, with Megan specifically, it was like, everybody looks at the actress and the movie star and all this, but I was able to see her heart, and at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, that's the profession, but that's not the person. And so for us to really get beyond our titles and get beyond how the world sees us and give each other a chance to really see how God sees us and who we are, in that we found that it was the best experience either of us had ever had, and so much of that was that we were the one in each other's lives, and life has just continued to get better since we got together. When I advise other couples, I say, one, you got to really get your relationship with God right. Because so much of the discernment that you're going to need about the mate in your life, He will give you. And when you're close to God, you can then begin to understand if this person that's coming in your life is the right person. Part of Megan and I making that determination also was she was committed to God and I was committed to God before we got together. So we had a really strong spiritual foundation, which was another key, another piece of evidence that let us know that we were the right ones for each other. Another thing that another thing we talk about was, we didn't consummate the relationship till marriage. That was very, very important because we did not want to get into a situation where, sometimes when you put something in the microwave, it cooks it faster than when it's in the oven. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, a relationship, you cross that line too early, too soon, and things, that you think you know somebody, but you don't. And then a lot of times you end up spending years recovering from a situation that ended in a devastating way. When maybe if you didn't cross that line, you would have seen that this isn't the right person, and it would have been easier to get out of it. So these were some of the things that we did. We waited until marriage, which we were excited about and happy about, and we've been blessed because of it. So I try to, confer and try to, give some of this advice to those that come to me, in relationships. And, because it's a hard thing. I mean, finding the mate, finding the right fit for your life is truly one of probably the most challenging endeavors. But when you find the person, you know it. You feel it in your heart. You can see it. Others can see it. And the key piece is, does that person make you better? I can tell you that from the day we started dating, Megan, I ain't, man, I am right now. If it wasn't for her coming in my life, because she makes me that much better.
Wow. Wow, Devon Franklin. Devon, first of all, you're officially family of Kempire Radio, so this is not the last interview. So all the other things that I have to ask you about this book, because because it's an ongoing conversation anyway, and we definitely want you to come back. But our question of the night, I'm sure you've probably seen everything all over the news about Paula Dean, and a lot of people are coming up with their own judgments and whatnot. But I would love to hear your perspective on the whole situation.
I mean, as I understand it, there were some things that came out of a deposition that she had done
Yeah.
where she was being sued for discrimination, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Yes, and I haven't seen, I heard she posted a few videos, to apologize, which I have not seen, and I have not read the deposition, so I don't know exactly what she said.
Yeah.
However, I mean, listen, it's like, when it comes to race, in this country, it's an issue, and it remains an issue. I mean, even with, an African-American president, we can't think that the issue of race has all been solved, and that we're in a postmodern, post-racial society. I mean, race is as big of an issue, and there's still a lot more to do and to go as it ever has been, So I think the situation with Paula, again, I would really need to be educated to really have a more specific point of view on it. But I would just say that, race is and continues to be, still one of the bridges that need to be one of the gaps that need to be bridged in our culture and our community and in our world. And I think that, this is just another example that, we can't just sweep it under the rug. It's something that we need to continue to address and really look at, productive and healthy solutions on how to bridge the divide.
And my final question to you, again, guys, if you just tuned in, we're here with Devon Franklin, his book, Produced by Faith. We're posting links everywhere on our social media. Purchase a copy today. I really feel like people will get so much from this. I think it's even beyond what people think it may be when we talk about religion and faith and all. I think even if you're not the most religious person in the world, you will be truly affected by this book. So that's part of the reason why I wanted to have you here on the show, because we talk about all kinds of things here on the show, from the hottest topics in the celebrity world to things of this nature. But Devon, do you have hope for the world? Because a lot of people look at the world right now and they're just like, things seem bleak. What are your thoughts on the world and where we're going?
I absolutely have hope, for the world, without question. And I do believe that's part of what God has called me to do. And it's the reason why I do what I do. It's the reason why I make the movies that I make, that I write the books that I write. When I speak the way I speak, the way I preach, is to bring people hope. I think that the greatest mistake you can make right now is to believe that there's no hope, and to buy into the darkness that sometimes is portrayed in the headlines. Yes, there are a lot of things going on, but if we don't stand up, if I don't pursue my purpose, if I don't operate in my function in the world that I was designed to, if I don't reach my destiny, there's somebody who may not get reached. There's somebody who may not get touched. So that urgency is what fuels me and what gets me up every single day. I absolutely have hope for the world. As long as God, is God, and Jesus is Jesus. I believe in the world. I believe in people. I believe in humanity, and I believe that there's nothing this world can bring us that we can't overcome with God's power. However, it's going to require us to get back to a sense of community, to get back to a sense of faith, and get back to a sense of love. The best way to combat the darkness is to start loving each other. Yeah, we may have differences, we may not see the same way, but that doesn't mean that I'm a bad person or you're a bad person. We have difference of opinion about things, but guess what? Because you are who you are, you're a child of God, I'm a child of God, I'm going to love you and respect you on that level. So while things may be dark, I absolutely have hope. I remain hopeful, and I will continue to do things to put things in the culture to bring hope, to bring inspiration. And one of the most exciting things for me is when somebody, gets an idea of what they're supposed to do in life, and they get passionate about it, and they go after it. That's what we need right now, is people not to be sidetracked or distracted by the headlines. When you see something tragic happen, be compassionate. If you can give, but don't let it be a distraction or an excuse not to be all you are called to be and do every single thing you're called.
Amen. Devon Franklin, thank you so much for being here on the show. I hope you'll come back because, like I said,
Oh, yeah.
Produced by Faith is there's so much to talk about in regards to your book. But we're posting the links so everyone can get a copy,
Thank
so
you.
that everyone can have this conversation because I definitely think it's important. And everything you said tonight, I feel like you're definitely touching lives with this book, and we'll continue to support. And thank you so much for being here on the show. And we hope you'll come back.
I will come back, and I so appreciate your support. I mean, this message of Produced by Faith is one that I have, it's a field I've been laboring in for some time, and so I'm just excited that you caught the vision and you caught the message, and I'm just excited for all those who are listening and through your social media efforts and all your promotion who will find the book and find the message, because I know that it is changing lives, it is changing careers, it is changing perspectives. So I'm just appreciative of your support, and I certainly will be back.
Most definitely. Thank you so much, Devon Franklin. Everyone, make
You're
sure you
welcome, man.
get a copy of his book.